everybody. It's been a long time since I had a podcast with Selling to the CIO, and I definitely have a special guest today on the podcast. A little bit different from the normal podcast that I would typically do. And I want to welcome my daughter, my oldest daughter, Carly Silverstein, to the podcast. Carly, how are you?
Good, how are you? Thanks for having me, Dad. I'm really excited about this one.
Me too. Me too. I thought a lot of the people that that watch this podcast and that I've known for a long time have, kids your age, and they might gain some valuable insights from just the conversation that you and I are going to have today. So I appreciate you taking the time from your busy schedule at Amazon.
Yep, of course.
Yeah. So why don't you just start by telling the audience a little bit about yourself and what you're doing with yourself these days?
Okay, so obviously I'm from Philly, as my dad is, and then I went to college at Indiana University, studied finance and technology management there. When I graduated in 2020, and went right into a rotational program at Amazon. It was called the Operations Finance Rotational Program. So it was a 2-year program, 4 rotations over the 2 years. My first year I spent in New Jersey, and I was at two different distribution centers. So I was owning the finance, but specifically like in a distribution center where you get your packages from, focusing on the operations there. And then into my second year, I moved to Nashville and I got placed in a central role. So instead of supporting just one building, I was basically supporting all of customer fulfillment operations and doing the rate planning for all of the buildings. That was my third rotation. And then in my fourth rotation, I actually like focused specifically on tech. I was more so in a product manager role, I would say, and I was helping manage the data infrastructure for customer fulfillment, figuring out like where our data was really good and where our data was really bad and ways to make it better. And then basically after the rotation, you kind of figure out who you know, what teams you want to be on, think about where you want to go permanently in your career. And I ended up deciding to take a permanent role with my third rotation, and that's where I've been since August. So I'm on, it's called the Central Ops Rate Planning Team, and we support all of North America customer fulfillment doing the quarterly, annual, and 3-year planning cycles. That's what I do now. I don't even know if you knew all that.
I didn't. I appreciate the update, and wow, that's impressive. Obviously, and listen, I'm always impressed about you and your abilities and what you've accomplished. And Carly's one of those kids that she graduated from Indiana, and she never came back home. I know that's a lot of kids. I think I saw a statistic recently that 60% of college kids over the last couple of years, they come back home to live and work to save money. And Carly certainly, she headed right off to New Jersey and lived in an apartment by herself in a little bit of a sketchy neighborhood, which but she managed through it her first year, and grew up really fast. So sort of like how I was thrown to the wolves, I guess, when I was her age as well. I never moved home as well. And she said, "I'm from Philly. I'm from Florida, and then I
Sorry.
moved to Philadelphia." So I'm a native Floridian. So anyway, so very impressive, Carly. And and listen, people who know me know how I talk about you, and I talk about Carly with admiration because this is a kid who's puts her head down and grinds it out, and is a self motivator, and he always never settles, right? So very proud of her in that way. So always a high achiever and never had to worry about her in school or sometimes of course in life, as we get bigger kids, there's always bigger problems, of course, but she's always made me proud. So I was gonna, Carly, what would you say motivates you now? What gets you excited, and what's important to you?
I think in work for me, I've realized that I'm really not motivated specifically by the work at all. I'm motivated by the people a lot. And I know it's different for everyone, but I have learned that I can like be in a spreadsheet kind of doing anything, but if I don't like my manager or my team, I'm not going to do a good job. Um, And that's just like a fact. So I've been really driven by making sure I'm working for someone that I believe in and they believe in me, and then also surrounding myself with a team that I trust, because that's what's most important to me. Um, and throughout my career, obviously, I'll probably end up doing a lot of different things, but I think whenever I take a new job or like decide to go somewhere else within Amazon, I want to make sure that I like believe in the team and the people on the team.
Yeah, I try to, you know, I speak to a lot of my friends' kids who just need a little kick in the butt sometimes. And I always tell them, everybody wants to chase the money. Everybody coming out of college thinks they're going to make $200,000 right off the bat. And I'm like, you get these people your age, honestly need a jolt of reality. Listen, listen, there is opportunities in some fields for that kind of money to be made, but just not in general, right? And I always give advice to these folks. Don't chase the money, chase the manager,
Yeah.
especially in the beginning, because that is so important as far as your quality of life. And, I know you've had some tearful evenings, right? And I always tell you, don't cry over anything that doesn't cry over you. Because it's just not worth it, right? Go find another job. It's not worth it. The money's not worth it. Do you use a lot of technology at your company? Are they always walk us through that a little bit? How's technology helped you at your job? I mean, I know you do a lot of spreadsheets. Obviously, you're the master of those. But is there a lot of technology that enables you to do your job better? Tools and stuff that they
Yeah.
use?
I would say Amazon has a lot of like internal technology tools that we all leverage. So um, Power BIs and quick sites and things that to use data visualization is heavily used by Amazon. And then in my specific job, I do a lot of like coding, right? So I use like it's called Heidi SQL. Um, but I use that platform to be able to build out different models to make projections. And we heavily rely on the tech teams within Amazon to help us and support us optimize those like codes and models. Um, it's definitely scrappier than most people think, though. When we start, like Amazon grew really, really fast, really quick. So there's certain areas of the business that are scrappy, and we're still using Excel in some places. Don't have like sometimes all the data that we need, but are able to figure it out. But we definitely use different like coding tools and internal data visualization tools that Amazon's continually iterating on and pushing out to like the internal customers. There's also a whole like internal product team, and they're definitely reorging all the time to figure out what finance teams need what technology products and how they're going to push them out globally and not just to like one org at a time. Because that's the other issue, right? Like my team is in the US, but there's a Europe rate planning team. So figuring out between our two teams how we can all be one team is something that we use technology for.
It's awesome. Well, continued success there. I mean, I personally think it's a great company. You've learned so much, and Amazon's not going anywhere for a while, I would say. So if you want to, I know there's been some layoffs in tech, right? That's a little bit scary, but I always say to people, know the numbers, because it always comes down to numbers, no matter what job that you're in. It's always selling something, no matter what you do, and it's always about the numbers. So those are two attributes that will serve you well as you go throughout your career. So I guess enough about Amazon at this point, as we're coming up to the 13-minute mark already. See, I told you time goes fast when you're doing this. Um, what in general, back to the book for 1 second. One of the reasons I wrote the book, right, is I wanted to show my daughters that I could start something and finish it, right? I've always in my life started some things, and I just, you never finish it, you never get back to it, you never follow through. So it was one thing in life that I said, you know what? I'm going to show my daughters, if they put their mind to something, that you can do it, and if you really take the time, you can achieve whatever you want. So that was, to me, hey, I hope it was a life lesson for my kids to take away, that put your mind to something, you can achieve whatever you want. And that's to me, that's how I got the book done. So what's important to you in life these days? What do you want to get accomplished in your life? Where do you see your future going? And like, how can I guide you?
I think that's a loaded question.
Yes, I know. There was a lot there.
Yeah, well, I think I think writing a book is something that not many people can say they do. So I agree that finishing a book was like definitely a huge accomplishment, and I never thought that honestly you would write a book. So,
Me
that,
neither. Me neither.
but I mean, I think I don't really think about my life and like what's going to be in 10 years. I think right now in my portion of my life, especially in your 20s, a year ago is so much different than a year now. Um, so
Yes.
for me to think 10 years out is like crazy. I can barely think a year out because I know my life could be totally different in another year. I could be living somewhere else. So I think my overall goal in my career, right, is to just be happy and fulfilled and be happy with the people around me. What I'm doing is less important than like how I'm feeling about what I'm doing, if that makes any sense. I don't have like a goal that I want to be start my own company and do XYZ. It's more so like where I am, I want to feel like I'm making a positive impact, whether it's on society, my team, or my customer. Either of those will do. And I think just continuing to remember, at least for me, that like work isn't my whole life. Like I'm not someone who's gonna, I don't I don't live to work, I work to live. So I think just being able to continue to focus on like obviously continuing to do well in my career, but also as I continue in my career and get more priorities and get more responsibilities, like prioritizing my work life balance too, is definitely something that I is one of my goals and
Yeah.
is important to me.
I mean, you said something that's so true. I mean, I tell people all the time, as I'm in my 50s now, that you want something different in your 20s than you do in your 30s, than you do in your 40s, than you do in your 50s. It's just life evolves and you go different directions. So it's good that you have perspective that you're living almost year to year right now. So it's so true at this point in your life. It just moves so fast. And I tell you, life goes really fast as you get older. So and savor and enjoy every moment. And I think you have a good perspective on things. I think if you're doing what you love, the money will come and money won't be as important as it is for some people because you want to be fulfilled. You're one of those kids that just wants to be fulfilled and you are a people pleaser, no doubt about it. And you know, I think you've got a great perspective on life at this point that some people don't have even at my age. So I appreciate you sharing your insights. Is there, what else you got? What else? Is there anything else you wanted to share with the audience out there?
Um, I think there's some like lessons that I could say I learned from you, like watching you in your career,
Well,
right?
I didn't mean about me, but okay, I'll take the compliments if you got them. So go
Well, whether they're compliments or not, it's not just about you, but I think
ahead.
things that I've learned, like watching your career in sales, and watching you progress, has taught me like a couple things that I think stand out that I can share. And I'm sure you probably shared in your previous episodes that maybe I don't watch. But I think one thing lesson that is really poignant when with me in my career, and I kind of mentioned this, but obviously I care about the people a lot, and I think one thing you've taught me specifically in sales that it's really not about who you know, it's not about what you know, it's about who you know. Obviously that's important specifically in sales in your career, but also in mine too. And I think with like people being so important and the center of everything, I think another thing that you've done really well and has stuck with me is knowing that people don't remember you for what you did or what you said, but how you made them feel while you did it. And when I'm going about my day to day and interacting with a bunch of different people at work, I think I have to constantly remind myself like it's not about getting this spreadsheet over or sending this report or writing this doc. Um, like obviously they want the output, right? But my business partners are going to remember me for the interactions we had during it and how they felt when they were working with me. So I think that's really important, and you do a really good job about like whenever you meet someone, I think they feel like they're the most important person in the room. And that's like an awesome trait that I think I try to embody at work. And I think it's made me hopefully a little bit more successful.
Well, I appreciate that. That lasts until unfortunately my ADHD kicks in sometimes. So, but listen, you said it before too about the relationships, the building part, right? The whole book is written with that in mind, right? That's the theme. If you look back and had to summarize the book in one word, it's about the relationships that I've created through life that have allowed me to get to the point where I am. I'm not the best salesperson in the world. I'm not the most technical salesperson in the world. I gotta, I'm not the most articulate person in the whole world, but I am good at building relationships and caring about people. And that's gotten me to where I am at this point. And you see it in everyday life. No matter what you do, what job you're in, it's all about the relationships. And you're going to have these relationships that you're building forever, right? These people aren't going to all be at Amazon forever. They're going to go to another place. They're going to remember Carly. You know what? Man, I loved working with Carly. Let me call her up and see if she might be interested, right? Not that you'll go necessarily, but that's really what matters. And that's really what matters in life. So if I were to go tomorrow and you were to repeat that at my eulogy, I would be very proud and satisfied. So not to make it morbid, but I appreciate that. So
A little morbid, for sure.
yeah. I mean, listen, Carly, you've taught me a lot as well. You're as I said in the opening, you're gritty, you're caring, you're smart, you're beautiful. You're my daughter, so I'm not that biased. But you know that hard work. It takes hard work, and a lot of people don't know that at your age, and they all should take a lesson from you in that. So just put your head down, do your thing. Don't let the world don't let anybody make you get upset. Right at this point, it's just not worth it. Find something that makes you fulfilled. And like you said, you got to fail once in a while. It's all. Look at any pro athlete; they'll tell you that. Look at anybody that's been successful in their career. They failed a lot of times, right? And then you'll get lucky once in a while, and everything will turn out pretty well. So, hey, it's been we're over time, so I gave you an extra 5 minutes because you're related to me. So, we're good to go there. But any closing thoughts or anything else you'd like to leave the audience with?
No, I don't think so. I think one thing I wish I told myself 3 years ago was that it's just not that serious. Like, in a lot of ways, life's not that serious. Work isn't that serious. Everything will work out, and it's not that serious. So,
Oh,
I tell myself that every day, and I think it's my last thought. But no, thanks for having me. It was fun.
no, I
Um,
loved it. It was awesome. This is the most I've talked to you in a long time, right? I get the little bits of my daughter, right? So to have a 22-minute conversation, makes me feel good. And plus, I'll see you in Nashville in a couple days, so I can't wait for that. So, all right, Car, love you. Take care. Thanks for sharing your insights.
yeah, talk to you soon.
All right, bye.
Bye.